And good morning and good day to you around the globe. Welcome to Blueprints of the New for this month, the show that I do every month. And I also welcome all our non-physical friends to this round table that we have created together, to this safe space that we have created together, where we meet to explore, to open up, to invite all the different parts of us to participate, to join, to play with us, and where we can explore and feel safe and explore all these different energies, all these different feelings, all these different experiences that we've never felt before. So my name is Alexis Sersha, and I'm broadcasting from far north Queensland. And I was just reflecting today, it's been such an interesting journey doing this in front of the camera, talking to a camera. I can feel you, I can feel everybody present, but I don't see you. So it did take a little bit to get used to, and especially since I'm not the person to sort of, be in front of the camera, I like to be behind the camera. I feel much more comfortable in this way. And yet, when we do play with our eternal self, with our soul self, we do always step further than what we thought that we were able to step into. And today we've got a special broadcast with Yeshua, because it is his time at this time of the celebration, and you can probably feel him already present here with us. So let's just take a few deep breaths and come here into this space. Oh, that feels so good. A little bit of a reprieve from all the intensities that are happening around the world, around you in life. It is just not letting go this year. It's just one intensity after the other. A lot of people experiencing body issues, including me. I've experienced some odd body issues, tiredness. So it has been very, very interesting after, a few years not even having a cold. I have had some unusual things. I did go to a doctor, but of course they don't know what is going on. So it is probably just the ascension symptoms, but it does feel good to, check out the standard medicine as well. And of course, then based on all of that, I make my own choices. I don't always do what they say, but they do have all these machineries, all these instruments where they can check up on things, because we are still playing with, we are still, integrating all our ancestral things. Our body is integrating ancestry. So it is always good to utilize everything that is available. That's my opinion. And I do welcome, I see there's still more coming to join us in this gathering. So just an announcement for next month. We have a 1-hour webinar coming up, and it is called Soul Intimacy. So I believe Yeshua is going to talk a little bit about this today, but we're just going to go much deeper, in that 1 hour into soul intimacy, because this is what the dance with your eternal self, with your soul is. And it doesn't really matter how the words that each individual uses, because it depends on your background, depends on the groups that you were and are part of. Each and every group sort of uses these words a little bit differently, but words are not that important. It is just important to actually experience and feel and experience this dance. It doesn't matter what words one uses, because the words, they do fall short. And we do keep having to invent new words, new expressions to redefine everything that we've known. And this is the fun part of this journey that we are experiencing. Okay, so I think we have Yeshua here. He's sort of saying, okay, let's go with this show. And here I am, Yeshua. And I too welcome you to this gathering. And I too have been waiting for a very, very long time to have this opportunity to be this direct, dishonest, this truthful with you, to not have to play and interact with you through the old imageries, through the imageries of me hanging on the cross for that time. Those 3 days were, yes, very painful, but they were very quick. And yet so many get stuck in that place, thinking that suffering is a virtue. The 3D reality where you were, where you lived, where you existed, suffering was a virtue, was considered a virtue. The more you suffered, the more you thought that the more brownie points you had in heaven. Heaven which was somewhere far away, not here, not present, somewhere in the future, of course, if you behaved right, if you did everything right. But for those of you, which is most of you here, you know how different this heaven is, the heaven on earth, heaven within you, this kingdom within you. And for me also, it was a very quick transition from my suffering to ascension. And because I did it, I chose to do it in such a quick way. I chose to ascend, to resurrect in such a quick way. It was not possible for me to stay on earth because the physical body was not ready. The physical body was not able to transform in such a quick way. And that is why you, the wise one, are choosing to do it in a slow way. In a way that is doable, in a way that is where the body is able to transform, transmute, to let go all of the old cells and bring in the new cells, the cells that are able to hold this dance between the soul self and the human self and the eternal self. Of course, there are 3 if we are to be technical. But as Alex had mentioned before, it is not important to be technical with words. It is not important to be exactly correct, righteous with words. This new era demands experience. So how do I dance with my soul? For I have taken, even though I haven't decided to keep staying physical after my resurrection, I have taken my human self with me. I will always have this part because that part does not disappear. And that part helps you, assists me to relate with you. Because the human self is an integral part of this experience. The human self is no lower than your soul self, is no lower than your eternal self, because the human self is part of eternal self. And it would not benefit, the eternal self does not look down upon its own self. Doesn't matter what part that part has chosen to play. Eternal self has compassion, honoring, an eternal time, for it is timeless. It exists outside of time. And these are some of the things, some of the attributes of the eternal self that the human self can find extremely frustrating, because human self has very, very different ideas of what things are. And enlightenment, resurrection, all of these words had a very different meaning. They were given a different meaning by the mind, also by the human who was living in a box that was not connected, in a box of disconnection. So all of these ideas that the human self has of what heaven means, of what kingdom within means, are based on false premises. They're not based on experience. They're based on some kind of ideal where the human self imagines things that would be a perfection, some kind of perfection, and yet has never experienced it. Not while living in the box of the mind, because the box of the mind is a disconnected box, as you yourself will know. And then as you go through awakening, you start opening that box, you start opening those windows, those doors, to much more of who you are, of, of a lot of who you are. And of course, this process, if we call it that, it is never finished because your eternal self is forever, goes on forever. So the exploration, and this is the joy of it, is never finished. And this is where it is a joy to be changing all the words, to be making different relationships with words, with concepts. And some of the words, they become meaningless in this relationship of yours, in this dance between the human and the soul and eternal self, like perfection, harshness, all of these things, they go out of the window. They melt into neutrality because they have no space, they have no place in this new way, in this new world. And there is such a different experience of dancing with your eternal self. And it is not only that all how shall we say, good experiences, there are of course also challenges, because the eternal self works or is in a very, its being is in a very, very different way than the human is used to. And there is so much the human has to let go of. All the old dreams that were based on that boxed model, that were based on ideas of kingdom within, that were not really correct because they were not experienced, they were not based on experience. But the human self sometimes has trouble letting go of these old dreams because they were so ingrained, they were so much part of you, so much part of the reality, the disconnected reality. This perfectionism is coming to a place, the completion. Even this word you can change relationship with. Because completion in the disconnected place, in the box of a mind, means some kind of event in the future where everything that the mind decides is ticked off. You are this, tick. You are that, tick. You've achieved that, tick. And all of a sudden you're supposed to feel complete. And yet most of you, especially if you have been around here for quite a while, once you come to those ticks and you complete those ticks, you realize that unless you drastically change your inner landscape, they do not bring completion. They do not bring satisfaction, because satisfaction and completion come from a different place, not from the outside, not from the outside world. So changing this relationship with the word completion, what happens is that you bring it into the now moment and you feel complete. You feel complete regardless of what happens outside, regardless of the situation outside, regardless of the dance the aspects are doing on the inside of you. Completion doesn't need to be somewhere in the future once you've ticked off all of the ticks from the mind's list. Completion is right here. You are complete. You always are complete. You always are perfect. Even if your life was a mess, you are perfect in that moment. You cannot be any more perfect than you are just right now as you are. And you are perfectly made as a human. You are a perfect match for your eternal self. For this match was made in heaven. And the joy of this relationship is this discovering just how perfect you are together, how perfect you dance together, how perfect you explore all these new terms, all these new ways of being, all these new feelings, the kingdom of heaven within. And all of the ways, the new ways that you start relating to yourself. The judgment flies out of the window. Harshness flies out of the window. You start dealing with yourself. You start relating with yourself in kindness, in patience, in compassion. And compassion in a new way, not in the old way, where compassion was binding. Compassion meant taking on someone else's cross. And yet you have learned that in this new way, compassion is not that. Compassion is allowing the other, another, to go through their experiences, because you allow them the same rights as you allow yourself. You allow them the right that they too are an integral part of their own eternal self. And that eternal self may be the same eternal self as yourself, and yet still they are a sovereign being. They have a right to their experience. They have a right even to their suffering, until that day comes when they choose no more. And you can just be there and radiate your compassion, your peace, your completeness, your satisfaction. What does it feel like to be satisfied with everything? If you walk out, if you walk through your day satisfied, I invite you to try that. I invite you to play with that. I invite you to dance with that. If you take one day, or even but an hour, and you choose to feel satisfied, and perhaps you need to initially breathe into it before that feeling comes. And then take a look upon your life, all the people in your life, all the events, all the things, and feel satisfied with them. See how they change. They have no choice but to respond to the Creator. They have no choice but to give you more satisfaction and more and more. Because if you walk in your life with the attitude of dissatisfaction, your life will perfectly respond to that. You are the creator. You are the creator of your own life. And I know how difficult it can be to swap, to change this point of view. It can be difficult at the beginning, but once you do it, in that moment, in that millisecond, you step from being dissatisfied into satisfaction, into being satisfied just because you are the creator, because this is how you choose to interact with the raw materials of your life. And then the life responds. And you will see that the life responds to the whole of you, not only the human self, not only the mind self, because the human self realizes that the wholeness of you is many. So how life responds when you allow your eternal self to be present, life responds to eternal self in a very different way. Even the creatures, the animals, the birds, they know their presence, they recognize it, they behave differently, everything behaves differently. And you will notice that for some people, it will be a welcome change, and for some others, they won't want to have anything to do with you. And it is in a very similar way it's with your aspects the same. Because as you become gentle, as you become joyful with your aspects, so do you become also very uncompromising. Because you are the creator. You choose the reality that you have. You choose what you want to experience. You choose who you want to be. And you no longer are like a little boat lost on the sea, on the waves, going here and there and everywhere without any direction. And it is not that this direction comes from the mind, because you realize that the mind is also, it's supposed to serve you, the creator. It's supposed to serve you. It is not the master, because it was not made to be a master. And as we know, as you experience all this and as you allow more and more and more of your eternal self to be closer to you, to be closer with you, you know that sometimes all of the aspects start playing out. All of those ones that are not used to this kind of dance, this kind of game, this kind of change, they will have a lot to say about everything that happens. And you, again, you choose who you identify with, which voice you listen to. And as you keep practicing this, as you keep being dissatisfied with yourself, satisfied with life, and you start seeing the changes, and you also start seeing all the little things, and you start noticing how the unconscious part of yourself have been creating with you, have been co-creating reality with you. And that is why so many things happen where you wonder, why have I created this? And at times for a human self, it can be a challenge to take responsibility for that. And yet this is where the dance with your eternal self comes in. Because you take that time of your day, you make it a priority to take that time of your day to spend with your eternal self, to be with your eternal self, to allow to be embraced, to be touched, to be comforted. And it's radiating its magnificence, its compassion changes you. Just like being around wonderful people, joyful people changes you. So for the human self, being around your eternal self absolutely changes you. It absolutely gives you joy. It absolutely gives you all the wonderful feelings that you can imagine. And of course, all the not so wonderful, so the human things. And this is one of the huge things also that changes. You change your relationship with so-called unsavory feelings, unsavory emotions, unsavory parts of yourself that you would perhaps rather not feel. And yet they have been part of you for millennia, for centuries, even before the earth was made. They have been part of your soul. So what do we do with those parts? We accept them. Just like me, Yeshua, I have accepted the parts that have brought me to the cross. It wasn't anybody else's fault. It wasn't anybody else's doing, and I had many choices. I didn't have to end up on the cross, not at all. And yet I took responsibility for that choice. And have moved on, and I have never returned to the cross. I have never returned to the suffering. I have never returned to that place where suffering would be virtue. And suffering is so present on earth. And it will continue to be for a while, because each and every one of human beings has to choose differently. You cannot choose for another person. All you can do is radiate. All you can do is make yourself available to be of assistance. And yet each and every one will have to do that same inner work, because they too are a creator. But when you look at them as a victim of circumstances, which is very easy to do, you deny them that opportunity, you deny them that honor, that they too are a creator. They are perhaps not still conscious, but one day they will be, and one day they also will go through this experience of awakening, of this experience of relearning how to dance with your soul, with your eternal self. And I know that this journey has been challenging, has been very difficult, has been the most difficult journey for your human self. And I hear you, and I chat with you, and I talk with you, and I walk with you as you're experiencing these things. And they also come in waves. It's like the sea, the wave. There's an up wave and there's a down wave. There are times when there's more, you feel as a human, more connection. There are times when you feel that you are alone again. And yet that is not true, because once you open yourself up, there is no way back. And that's a good thing. And I remind you that every time you open up to a new level, to a deeper level, again your parts come up. Those ones that don't know love, those ones that don't know honor, those ones that don't know appreciation, the gentleness of life, the gentleness of relating, working things out as partners, as lovers, as friends. For you are all of these things between you, if you choose to be in this way. You can be gentle, you can learn gentleness from your own eternal self, especially for those of you that perhaps have had a difficult childhood, perhaps have not known gentleness, perhaps have only known war and battle and hurt and betrayals. You are on this wonderful journey of acceptance, of being so accepted, so right, of being so warmly touched by your eternal self, this match made in heaven. The kingdom within you, this heaven within you. It is you who are this. It is you who can be this. And all of the different things and all of the different aspects that happen and all of the different parts that sing, that shout with these loud voices, that still co-create your life. And you wonder, why have I created this? All of these things. There is the light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. Because they too learn, they too continually evolve. They also continually change as they see you, as they see those parts that come forward, they step forward and say, me too, I too want to learn how to be loved. And as I said before, this love does not have wool over its eye. This love does not have rose glasses. This love absolutely sees each and every part for who they are. So these parts they cannot manipulate. They cannot trick the higher self, the eternal self. They can trick the human self, they can trick the mind. But the eternal self just radiates, just is present. Until this game that this part is playing is over. And this is the part also that the human self sometimes finds very frustrating. Of course, the human self doubts. All along it doubts. It creates tests for eternal self. Sometimes you go back into your own patterns just to see the reaction of your eternal self. Is it true what you say, my soul? Is it true that you don't get angry with me? Is it true that you don't get impatient? That you don't start hating me if I do this? What can I do to make you feel angry? So as a human self, you test and you test and you test until that time when even testing becomes boring. But it is also part of this whole dance, because your eternal self knows, feels what the human self has been through. Eternal self understands why the human self has such a hard time to trust, because it has never experienced this kind of trustworthiness before. Everything in life before, in the 3D, was untrustworthy, was not safe. And the eternal self has all the time in the world and allows the human to play this game. And then you come to a place, the human comes to a place when you say, no more. Let's play another game. And off you go. And this relationship, that it keeps expanding, it keeps changing, it keeps evolving, and it keeps involving a whole of you. And this is another thing that the human self has to get used to in this new relationship. Because the human self used to judge, the mind judged, these are good things, these are bad things. And yet, of course, there are preferences. And yet, of course, there are things that in higher dimensions don't happen. So when you step out of 3D, you naturally no longer participate in certain things. You no longer want to do certain things. You no longer want to feel certain things. So everything changes. And yet at the same time, this dance of light and dark never finishes. Because your eternal self is whole. So this relationship with the dark also completely changes. There is acceptance, there is compassion. And there is so much that we've hidden in the darkness. So much that the 3D reality told you it was not okay. And yet you find that the reason why it was not okay is so that you could continue to be a slave. So it's not that the dark is bad. It is just that very often it is the dark that won't allow you to be continued to do the old patterns, to continue to be enslaved by things. So when you integrate the dark, it is very self-empowering. It is very freeing. And it is completely different to what your TV has told you, to what your movies has told you what the dark is. It is not out to destroy things. It is not out to go out and kill and shoot things. This is the 3D. The dark is uncompromising. It is helping you. It is assisting you to be able to say no to things that hurt you, to things that break your heart, to things that have made you a slave, to the reality that was very unpleasant, that was very unconscious. But you know that already, because all of you present today have experienced or have had all of these wonderful experiences already. And as you continue, and as the world around you continues to change, to break, all breaks down, all falls apart, it has to be really rebuilt in a new way. Just watch, just see how things change. And also remember, through all of the intensities, remember to celebrate, to feel satisfied, to feel in joy, to feel joyful with yourself. In any moment, you can feel joyful. In any moment, you can feel complete. Because you will never be more complete. Yes, there will be another now moment, but you are complete. Completely complete in this now moment. Completely perfect. Completely sacred. And it doesn't matter how much you have allowed so far. And I know that you sometimes criticize yourself and you want to allow more and more and more. And you get frustrated because you think, oh wow, I should have by now allowed more. But I see you. I walk with you. I see how you deal with things in your life. I see how you respect yourself more. I see how you've changed your patterns. I see how you've built into your day things that are joyful. I see how you've let go of people that were hurtful to you. And perhaps that none of this means forever when you let go of people. It's not a forever, it's just sometimes for a time being. And all the time, I remind you to make this easier for yourself, because you have no idea and you will not know until you come to our side just how amazing this work that you are doing is. And that's why we, your non-physical friends, keep reminding you. Because we are not able to stay in this reality that you still are in. And you are in to assist this change of consciousness, this grandest of events. But we are not able to stay here for as long as you are. We are not able to stay here for a long time. But you are. Because you are the bravest of the brave. You are the adventurer. You are the change bringer. And you wouldn't have it any other way. Imagine what it would be like if the world went back to 20, 30, 40 years ago, unchangeable, slow. It would drive you mad. So deep down, you know that you do enjoy this change, this fast pace of change. And even in this fast pacedness, you can feel complete, you can feel calm, you can feel joy. Because remember, it is you who choose how you feel. It is you who choose what you experience. It is you who are the creator of your own life. And when I say you, I mean whole you. Your eternal self, your soul, your human. In your dance, in your relationship with each other. It is how you allow life then to flow through you, the events to flow through you, the energies to flow through you. And all of the energies that are still swirling around the 3D, their mass consciousness that are not yours, you learn how to flow them through you, to allow them through you with ease without getting them stuck. And yet this is another thing that the human self does take time to learn, because they are so familiar, these energies of stuckness. The patterns of 3D are so familiar, and you've lived in them for such a long time. And it is so easy for you to mistakenly identify with them again as yours, when they belong to mass consciousness, when they belong to unawakened. And I remind you to just let them go. Feel them, notice them, and let them flow through you. Don't make them yours. Because you remember to feel complete. You remember to feel joyful. You remember to feel loving to yourself, gentle, honoring. All of these beautiful words, and yet words that have a deep meaning, that have a feeling with them. So go into those feelings. See how you can every day discover new ways of how you can self-love, how you can take care of yourself, how you can nurture yourself. Because this is your job to allow, to do in a practical ways, in little ways, in big ways. To look after yourself, to care of yourself. It is your primary responsibility. And it also becomes a very joyful thing and a reflection of a being that is whole, a reflection of a being that is healed, that no longer walks around disconnected with a broken heart. And it's a being so rare in the 3D, and it's a being that actually doesn't exist, has never existed in the 3D, not to the extent that you are now walking, multidimensional being within the 3D. No wonder everything is changing. And Alex has just reminded me that yes, there is a Q&A panel on the bottom of the screen, so if you have any questions, me, Yeshua, will gladly answer for you. And my main message of today is that, of course, regardless of all the difficulties, regardless of the pain and the suffering that perhaps is still lingering, that perhaps is still coming up for you, this too shall pass, and you will choose different, and you will find it in yourself, and you will allow it in yourself to let even that go, because all of the old is going. All of the old, if you allow, will move on, will dissolve. And it can be a little bit scary. It can be a little bit fearful, because your human self has no idea what is coming. It feels sometimes like a big chaos, and at other times it can feel void. And then you feel fear, because you don't know, am I trusting enough? Have I allowed enough? Am I good enough? Am I worthy enough? Is this all but a dream? Is this all a fantasy? But by now you've had too many experiences, and you've seen too many things happen in other people's lives, that your mind can no longer deny this, that it is real. You can no longer deny that things really are happening, because you see the results, you see the physical results that have happened, that have changed in your life, in your daily life, inside in your inner world. It is just how different you are, but from 10 years ago. How you treat yourself, how you behave towards yourself. And all of that then carries, of course, out into the world, out to others, even though that's not your primary purpose. It's not something you have to even worry about, because it just naturally happens. And when you feel that fear of unknown, you can call upon me, or you can remember of me, because I too have gone through that experience. I too have had to step into that abyss, into that newness, complete newness. Within those few days after the cross, a lot has happened to me. I have had to step out. I have had to allow all the old to melt, all the old to transform, to transfigure. I've had to let go of my old world. And you can feel me now. I am here. Joyful. Peaceful. Worthy. Feel me, what I've become, what I've allowed myself to become. And so you can too. Okay, we'll have a little bit of coffee now. Oh, this feels so good. And we'll go and see if we have any questions. And we did get a question by email. So I will read this one now. So during the last few years, during this journey, I felt triggered in many situations to anger. In those situations, it's as if someone has said or done something so unjust that I feel assaulted by the energy of criticism. Sometimes I say something, often I just hold it within myself until it expresses in explosive anger. Sometimes I just did not know what to do, and I threw energy at the other person. How do I ground this energy or express this energy in the best way that is beneficial to me and doesn't cause energy fighting with the others? So I would say that anger is a very, very healthy thing, especially for those of you that are feminine female body this year. In this lifetime, because there is so much you have had to suppress, and also for men as well, because you too have also had to suppress who you were. You've had to suppress your gentle parts. You've had to suppress so much of yourself, and this anger comes out because it is a very healthy way to finally feel it, to even express it, because you cannot You do not allow yourself to be unjustly treated anymore. You cannot live in that prison that the 3D has put you in. So it is very, very normal, it is very natural to feel extremes of anger and to go through periods when you are dealing with that. And I ask you to befriend the anger, to feel it, to see it, how different it is. It does require, anger is such a strong energy that it does require some expression. So do some physical activity when you're feeling anger. So for perhaps go for a walk, climb a hill, go swimming, and allow that anger to be in your body. Listen to what the anger is saying, because it will start talking and you will see things that are triggered, things that can be triggered by a person or what someone says or does. You will find that it will connect to whether things that have happened in this life in the past or whether to your other past, so-called past lives. So even little things can sometimes result in the feelings of extreme anger. And yet where you are, where all of you are able to deal with that. That's why you're allowing it to finally come to surface, because you are not going to physically hurt anybody. And you will find that anger and all of these feelings and all of these emotions will actually work with you. Your eternal self absolutely knows your schedule. So for example, let's say if you are at work or if you are with your young children, you can put that anger on hold. You can feel it a little bit and you say to it, look, I'm not going to act on this at the moment, but I will listen to your voice, and then find the time to go and do. Allow it to come to you, allow it to be in your body. Allow it to flow through you and listen to what it's saying, because it will remind you of all the injustices that have happened to you, and it will remind you of all the things where you were dishonored and you were not respected. And it will also allow you to not do that, to not allow that to happen anymore. It will also give you the energy. You can utilize its energy to make those changes, to make life more reflective, physical life more reflective of you. And it will give you words. It will give you the ability to say things to other people when things are not okay with you, when they are doing things that are not okay. And this is one of the things that it is very, very important for each and every one of you to allow yourself to even explore things that you perhaps have not allowed yourself to explore, parts of yourself. And so what if you are a rude person? Allow yourself to be rude. And it is not that you can have to go out and be rude to people, on like that this rudeness originates from you. But when someone does something that offends you, that steps on your boundaries, which they will, because you see, you are surrounded by people that are continually poking, they're continually stabbing at other people to get energy, because they're feeding on the energy. And that's how you get the energy. You stab at people, you hurt them, you do all of these very how shall we say, barbaric things to them, because it's in those times that another person releases their energy and the first person can feed on them. You see, this is the game of the 3D. And it will continue to happen. It continues to happen among people that are unawake, unconscious, because they are still operating within that system. They are still operating, playing the feeding game, and they will try to feed you, especially because they will feel when you change the energy dynamic within yourself, and when you start allowing your eternal self to give you all the nourishment, to give you all the love, from that eternal, from that well, from that river of life that is deep within you, you change your energy flow, and other people unconsciously feel it. So they will keep trying to poke you, because they will want your energy. So you need that part. You need to allow the part that is uncompromising, that will not allow others to do that. And that's okay to be rude. And this is another part of you to explore, especially if you were taught to be so-called nice girl. Who said you have to be a nice girl? Explore your not so nice parts. Be rude. Allow yourself to swear. Do something that you have never done before. And I don't mean doing that, as I said, just originating from you at someone else doing nothing. But when they do something that is not okay by you, you have permission. Give yourself permission to be strong, to be uncompromising, to say no. So you will find yourself, this is part of it all, you will find yourself doing things and saying things that you have never said before. You will find yourself saying things to people that you have never said before, because you cannot be within life, be within, surrounded by people that are unconscious in the way that you were. You do not want to be stepped on, and you will not allow yourself to be stepped on. And this is that uncompromising part that I spoke of. Yes, you are kind. Yes, you are absolutely honoring. And yes, you can absolutely swear at the same time. When someone steps on your boundaries, when someone wants to come in and take your energy and feed off you. So absolutely, anger is a good thing. And sometimes it can feel so overwhelming when you allow yourself to feel. And especially as a woman, it is so freeing to feel this anger, to feel all of the things that have happened to you, that you were made to allow to happen to you. And work with this anger, welcome it, and you don't have to act on it, and you will see and you will find how it works with you, because it is not your enemy. None of your parts are your enemy. They want acceptance. They want to be heard. They want to be the role that they were meant to be. And anger is a very, very healthy thing when it is expressed in a healthy way. It will remind you when something is not okay, when something's happening, when it's not okay. And you don't have to act in a physical way towards another person, of course. But it will require to act, especially when it's that strong. So do something physical. Perhaps go and do in a gym, do a boxing, at the bag. Go swimming, climb the mountain, go jogging. Do work with it physical, allow it to express, allow it to be. And you will find that it will dissipate slowly. And yet, if something is unjust, it will arise again, because it's a natural part of you letting you know when something is not okay. And when you've worked at it for a while, it may take a while before this, that it can, you feel that perhaps it's unjustified for that moment when you have such strong reactions to something that a person has done or a stranger has done, because it's all these old angers coming up that was suppressed for so long. So as I said, work with it, and you will find that after a while, even the anger will subside in this way. When you release it from all these past injustices, it will become current into the now moment, reflective of what is happening in the now moment. But initially, it has layers and layers and layers of this suppression of these past things. So work with it, invite it, make space for it, utilize it. It is not your enemy, and yet it may seem overwhelming. But when you work with it in this way, and you ask your eternal self to work, you give this anger to your eternal self, allow eternal self to imbue anger also, then you will find that it has a voice, it has a clear voice, it has a friendly voice, and it has a voice that is your protector, a voice that tells you when unjust things happen. And then you also have that oomph, that ability to say no, to walk out, to walk away from those kind of things. and you're no longer willing to compromise on things that break your heart, on things that hurt you, on things that hurt others. And this is a huge change, because it firstly affects your personal relationships, but also all of the relationships within your wide reality, within your society. It's not okay anymore what the institutions are doing, what the leaders are doing. And it is okay not to be silent about it. It is okay to say things if that is what you feel like. Perhaps you go through a stage where you talk on these things, where you write about the injustices. It doesn't have to be a permanent state of affair, because then it comes a time when you step away from even that. But allow yourself to explore, to play, to hear this voice. And just know that it is natural, it is normal to feel anger for all of the things that have happened. Blessings, dear one. Okay, we have 2 more questions. Okay, dear Yeshua, I can feel my feeling of satisfaction, and at the same time, I see my old unfulfilled heart. How can I bring the two together? Dear one, you allow the unsatisfied heart just to be. You allow and you radiate. You feel satisfaction and you keep choosing it, and you radiate that. And you will see how the unsatisfied part of you, the broken heart, heals. Because that part also, as it watches you feeling this satisfaction, as it watches you and the changes that you experience, it will also open, it will start trusting. Invite it to open up. Make space for it to open up. That's all you need to do. Don't force it to change. Because you cannot force love. You can only allow love. And as you make space for it, without having to force it, just let it be. It's okay. You know, each and every one of you, including myself, we have all these broken up parts, and some of them stay for a while because it takes them a while to start trusting. It takes them a while to start feeling. It takes them a while to start allowing the eternal self. And as a human, it is not your job to heal those parts. As a human, it is your job to create the space and allow that dance between the eternal self and the broken part to start, so that they can meet. And you can give this. This is the job of your eternal self, to work with, to dance with these broken parts. It is the job of you as a creator to choose who you identify with, because it is, you have this ability to choose whether you walk through life, through your day, as a person, as a being who is broken, meaning that you have identified with that broken heart, with that broken part, with that unsatisfied part, or you can choose to step into a different point of view, to step into a satisfied you and identify with that. And it doesn't mean that the other part goes away. It just means that life then has to interact with you in a satisfied way. And the other part, in the space that you have created, will work with your eternal self. And sometimes you can feel that back for a while. And sometimes also, like when you're not, you know, in those days and times of the day when you're not so conscious, you get pulled back into the 3D reality and you start identify again with the broken part. And just say, oh, when you notice it, when you become conscious and you just say, oh, look what I'm doing. Just be gentle with yourself. Be okay with yourself. Be forgiving with yourself. Don't beat yourself up, because then you're just playing with the patterns of this whole part. And just step into the satisfied part again. And take a few deep breaths. Take a few moments alone. And sometimes I do, you know, sometimes it doesn't work. because the energies may be so intense, and the energies of the world, whatever happens. And in those times, and that can actually, those times can also last for a while. And in those times, again, don't beat yourself up, just allow it all to happen. Just be gentle with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Be compassionate with yourself. And know that that too shall pass, that too will change. And there will come a time again when you feel this closeness and a renewed way of being with your eternal self, renewed ability, renewed intimacy with your eternal self. So whenever you're in doubt, have compassion with yourself, have kindness with yourself, have gentleness with yourself. If you follow that rule, you will walk through, you will sail through anything, even the most difficult, the most challenging times. Thank you. Okay, let's see the next one. Thank you for such a beautiful message, Yeshua. I notice sometimes that when I allow energies to flow through me, I experience physical discomfort. I don't get stuck on those energies, but I wonder if the discomfort is a sign that it is best not to just respond to those who have reached out for help or support. Thanks. All of these things, yes. You choose how you respond. You choose who you respond to. You're not responsible for another human being. You're not responsible for another adult. So when your body is saying to you that something is not comfortable, stop and make space and commune with your eternal self and make a choice as to how you're going to proceed. That is such a strong training for people, for women especially, to put others in the front. And when you realize there are no victims, there are reasons why people are experiencing what they're experiencing, then you can step away, then you can walk away. And you will find that others, they will either change or they will find another person with whom they can dance a dance when you're not sure. Because even this question is asking yourself permission to walk away, because you're feeling to walk away, you're feeling the doubts. Because if you were 100% sure that you want to journey, that you want to assist, that you want to help, you wouldn't have these doubts. Allow these doubts to speak with you. Allow these doubts to talk with you. Because remember, nobody is alone. We are here. Each and every person's eternal self is here. You are not responsible for another person. And yet, if your heart so desires to help, to assist, by all means. But it doesn't need to have any strings attached. So if there are energies pulling at you, it is because there are strings there. There are strings pulling at your energy. There are strings perhaps connected to your body. And there are strings perhaps connected to the past lives. And yet this freedom now to let all of these lives, to let all of the unhealthy relationships go. And very often you will find that, as I've mentioned before, it doesn't have to be a forever thing. It just means that you are demanding a different way of relating. You are demanding a way of relating that is stringless, that doesn't carry hooks, that doesn't carry, how shall I say, little prison, that doesn't carry obligations, especially if they are from past lives. There are a lot of things that are happening with people at this time because all of their old stuff is happening, and especially when people are on this journey. And as I said before, this journey is guided by eternal self, each and every one. Each and every human has that. So yes, if you feel to step away, step away. And then perhaps the next day you realize that the energy dynamics between the two of you have completely changed. And by all means, then assist. There is no need to make decisions that are forever. And this is what I was partially talking about earlier, how this dance between human self and eternal self changes the relationship with all of the words. So I will never do this again becomes meaningless when you're eternal and when you keep expanding and when you keep growing. And you can change your mind when something changes, and things change so quickly now. So you can make one decision today, and then if it pleases you, if things have changed enough, you can change your mind tomorrow when the tomorrow comes into the now moment. So allow yourself this freedom and allow yourself to explore this, where this responsibility for others has come from the parts of your culture perhaps, from the parts of you being a woman, from the parts of the 3D that kept everyone tied in unhealthy codependencies from the past lives which are currently happening. And it is also freeing for another person because they have but no choice than to fall either onto another person, or even better, to fall into the arms of the eternal self, even for that, for which they were seeking from you. So in this way, when you make choices based on your heart, it doesn't mean that you become a person that is used by everyone. Actually, quite the opposite. It means that you become extremely discerning. And it means that you make the choice within the heart. And the heart oftentimes says no, because the heart has a bigger perspective. The heart sees from a different point of view. So what to a human can look unkindness, to the heart may be the best decision ever. Because if that other person becomes more reliant on their eternal self because of the no you said, or because of the yes you said, then what better outcome is there? Because for people on this journey, it is all about this. Is it bringing you closer to your eternal self? Or is it creating more barriers? And sometimes the way people choose their paths cannot be understood by another person, because this dance is between their human and their own eternal self, and only they know where they've been, and only they know which journeys they have to go to get out of the prisons that they have created, because they too are a complete creator of their own experience, of their own life. And I don't mean as a human, I mean as an eternal self. So in this way, I invite you to open your heart in a way to your own self, and then act from there, whether that be a yes or a no. It is nobody else's business but yours, and you don't have to justify it to anybody else. And you can keep changing your mind depending on what happens, depending on how the energies grow, how things expand, how much more freedom there is. You are in a wonderful place, dear one, and I congratulate you for all the work that you have done. Thank you. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. No, I think that's it for today. So all of us, Alex, and all of our non-physical friends, we thank you for this wonderful opportunity to co-create together this space, this safe space, and these chats that we have. And until next time, thank you.